All right. That'll work. That'll work. Man, I need to get this mixer set up a little better. But T is what D is. So we're gonna do isolated JSX stuff today again. See if I can find the package that I put this in. So there's a package here that we worked on in a stream last week, I think. That does not have anything in the index file. But in the pragma file has a custom JSX pragma that can be used to replace the one in theme UI. So if you see that it's being used here, right? So there's the pragma comment, and then you import it like that. And so we worked on this. This is basically the same thing as the pragma that you see in theme UI here, except for the fact that it allows Gatsby themes to use custom contexts per theme, so they don't override each other and they don't conflict. So if I can find the repo that I did that in, then we will use that repo to continue. And if not, then I'll create a new one. Local theme, my theme. I need to be able to sort this by access. Yes, of course. Sort this by creation date because it'll be like last week, October 14th. A yarn.lock in the entire folder directory on the 6th. That's not relevant. Back in August, July, October. Nope. I think I put this in my actual. More theme UI stuff, yeah. Corgi coin apocalypse happening tomorrow. I guess tomorrow is the day that they go stable or whatever, right? How many do you have? How many do I have? I guess I don't see how many I have. Yeah, how many do people have? 5,000. I better raise the price. I clearly need to raise the price of things because with 5, I think you could do 54, 540 sound effects. You are here all the time though, so you'll always have enough. I just can't actually spend them on sound effects. Yeah, all right. Well, the other things are there too. Actually, what is the S sort? How do I sort? Sort by modified. There we go. Go print is something we did the other day. So that's what? Friday stream? Wednesday stream? On a shell stuff. Okay, so none of that is relevant. GitHub. Sorry. Theme UI theme stream pragma. That's the one. There we go. Not a Git repository. I should push that up. Actually, let me do that first. Why didn't I push that up? Let's not include .cache because that would be weird. Is there anything else that shouldn't be in here, like a node modules or something? Public should not be in here. I think everything else is good. There's the isolated JSX package, which, thinking about it, doesn't make any sense as a package name. Because this is, what, theme UI stuff? Oh, I guess I did call it isolated theme UI when I actually went to ship it. Secrets. Wait, where are the secrets? There's no secrets here, Ego. I did not release any secrets today. We'll add the yarn.lock too, and we'll commit this. Last stream. First stream? First stream. And then we'll git create. Just pulling your chain. Yeah, I don't think I've... Knock on... I guess this is wood, right? Knock on wood. I haven't committed a secret to Git in a very long time. So, hoping to keep that that streak going. Let's open this in a code pane. And then if anybody wants to check out the code, it is now on GitHub. Right here, even though it doesn't have a README. And you'll have to just, yeah. So it has Gatsby theme A, Gatsby theme B, the isolated JSX package, and then www. www uses the two themes, A and B. The themes, if we go into those quickly, both basically do the same thing. They have a wrap root with a theme provider, and the theme provider comes from theme UI. And actually it does, doesn't it? That's not supposed to... So we should get rid of this, probably. Because I think the way that we set the theme up... So we're using the deep theme here. And then here, we bootstrap the pragma with the context. And the context has the theme as the default value. So I think we can get rid of the wrap root, actually. That's interesting. Yeah, because we're passing the context directly in. We're not needing... When we consume it, it takes the default value. That's what's happening here. So we should do a wrap root with... I started just after... Oh, did it go right into Discord? Hasn't hit yet? Oh, yeah. Cool. So let's do that. Let's set that up. I'll make sure this works still. Yarn workspace is developed. Dub. Yeah, it's interesting. I guess it runs on 0, 15, etc. I feel like if we moved it to like 203 and then like 218 and then like 233, etc., we would catch everybody right after they went live for the Discord alert bot. You know, I didn't know if it ran on every like the 15 of every hour or just every 15 since I started it. But I bet you it will only hit. I think it just went, actually. I think I just saw it go. Unless that was just somebody else. Yeah. So it hit with me and it hit with Robert. Which is interesting. So I wonder if I should just restart it and restart it. When I restart it, it could be like I started at 2:03 or something like that. And then it'll redo everything. So let's take a look at this. We've got A, which has one theme on it, and B, which has another theme on it. And they're completely isolated, which is dope. And my upstairs neighbors are dragging a chair across the floor, apparently. So that's wonderful. The bots just fired. The bots have fired. So yeah, I think what we need here is we're going to actually create our own theme provider, probably, rather than using the theme UI one. Because if we just delete this, nothing happens. Or at least it shouldn't. Nothing should happen. 14 minutes late. Yeah, we were just talking about that. I think it either runs on 0, 15, 30, 45, or when I started the initial run, it was like 2:13 or something like that. So, yeah. So hello from A, hello from B. See that the removing the theme provider didn't make any change, so this code is basically irrelevant. I think we can move this to being the isolated theme UI package instead. So let's start with that. Yarn. Where should we do this? We should do this in each theme, probably. I feel like for this, I should have like a yarn workspaces or a YWS command so that I can choose multiple. Yeah, that's what we were thinking about doing, Talfs. Restarting it for basically 1 after the hour. Or I was going like 2:03 or something like that. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's replace this now. So this is going to be isolated theme UI. Pragma. I think it's exported by default. Let's go check. It is exported as const. So it's this. And this all should work. So the thing I actually want to get to today is see if we can do Pragma for MDX and replace that with the custom context stuff. That would be really cool. I really don't want to rewrite the MDX Pragma though, because that one's a little bit more complicated. Because we can do exactly what we did with the theme UI Pragma, except the theme UI Pragma itself doesn't have a lot of code and doesn't really do much, right? Hey Nikki, how's it going? Good to see you. So the theme UI Pragma compared to the MDX Pragma, the MDX Pragma has a lot more code in it, if I remember correctly. What is it? Where's create element? Create element is in the React package because it's a React thing. Yeah, so the Pragma here is a little bit more complicated because we actually have to handle, like, this doesn't pass through to anything. So we actually have to handle all of the other stuff in it, and I don't want to have to do that. Forgot about it being Monday. Luckily, a robot reminded me. Yes, that is what the bot is for. The other thing is that in here we actually write a component that gets rendered. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of pragmas. I think in the workshop I'm actually going to end up being like, so I'm hoping that I can get enough of this package done to the point where the developer experience is really nice for the workshop. But if I can't, I'm basically going to like tell people, hey, use the pragma, you have to bootstrap it like this. And then I'll just give them the snippet of code and they can use it. It's a little bit annoying to do this everywhere, but that's fine. It'll still work. So the MDX pragma does a forward ref to the underlying component. Could be worse, yeah, for sure. And it solves all the problems, right? Like, the only problem here is that you have to, you can take all of this out into a separate function and then import that instead, or all of this, right? You can bring all of this into a separate file, and then just export like the bootstrapped pragma and import that one. And then the only problem is you have to like specify the pragma, which isn't a big deal in the grand scheme of things because this handles all of the isolation for all of the theme tokens and hopefully MDX as well, which would be dope. So yeah, so this MDX pragma renders its own component, and that component accepts components. Where's prop components? All right, we've renamed them. So props come in, we check for components. We pass the prop components that come in into use MDX components, which checks the like wrapper, like the MDX provider. And I waver back and forth on whether the MDX provider should override this or not if we isolate it, but we can always make that decision later. So actually, I think what we can do here is just pass through to this. And we'll pull the components from our own context. We will pass them in as props, and then we don't actually have to write a new MDX consumer. We just write our new pragma, and our new pragma just calls out to this pragma, which is basically the same thing the theme UI pragma does to the emotion pragma. Yeah, pragmas are super dope. They have like a very specific use case, right? And the use case is generally for 99% of people just translating these JSX calls into create element calls. But for a specific kind of use case where you're trying to sort of like put implementation details behind this JSX thing, they are super useful. They haven't gained widespread adoption other than theme UI and MDX, which are sort of both because of me. So I wrote the MDX pragma originally after I was playing with the emotion pragma and doing some tests with that. And then did some experiments, and then the theme UI pragma came out of the work that I did with other experiments, and Jackson wrote that and stuff. Yeah. Does Create React App doesn't by default use a custom pragma, does it? I think Emotion is the responsible party for that pragma. But yeah, okay, so I think what we're going to do here is we're going to create an extra file. Because what we can do is if we create an extra file, we can expose this to shadowing as well. And that could create an additional API point of interesting leverage. But first thing I want to do, we'll do in source. I think this is creating it in source. If not, I'll move it. Context.js. This context.js will take all of this stuff put it here. We'll export the JSX const. We will export the theme context. Save that. Import JSX from what is it? Context. I can remember the names of files I just wrote. It's fine. Yeah, /context. And that should work. So let's check to make sure that that works. Dub. Because I swapped out the import, did I? Yes, I swapped out the import. So there are two things that could break here. I swapped the import, I swapped the file. React is not defined, of course, because React, even though we're not using React at all here, ESLint still wants us to include it. This is one of the reasons that that ESLint rule is kind of horrible, because we're not using React. These JSX blocks are not compiling to React. So there's nothing here in this entire file that's using React. But because ESLint will fail to build our Gatsby site if we don't include React, we have to include React. That's because it's not /theme anymore. It's /theme. And that looks like it compiled. Actually, can we get rid of React here? Will that actually... I guess it works these days. That's nice. So if we go to A, hello from A, B, hello from B, they're both different themes. They're both different colors. Which is dope. So we're going to continue with this approach. So what I'm going to do is... I'm actually trying to think of a way that I can make this even less code. Thank you, Ghost Graphics. Ghost FX? Ghost FX? But thanks for the follow. Appreciate that. We need a way to disable that role automatically in the presence of a pragma, but that may break some things. Yeah, it's just a thing. It doesn't matter. You have the way that React works is that you use React everywhere anyway. So including React in a bunch of extra files doesn't matter. It will not significantly change anything about your build if you import React in literally any other file, because it's literally on every page everywhere for your entire Gatsby app. So there's really nothing. Thanks, Hazelnuts, for the follow. So yeah. So we're going to take this. We're going to move it into the theme B as well. Actually, since we're over here, let's do this. So we're going to use the context, and then we're going to create this context file in theme B. And it does the same thing, so it's literally the exact same code. It's a little bit of boilerplate. I don't think there's a way to get rid of this boilerplate and also, I don't know. There might be. We might be able to use a Gatsby plugin that imports this theme file and then exports the context in the pragma, but then you have to import a magic file from somewhere that you don't know if it exists or not. So I prefer the 8 lines of boilerplate. I guess it's 5 actual lines of code, because it's pretty easy to read, etc. But we could do something a little bit more magical with a Gatsby plugin later if we wanted to. So hello from A, hello from B still works, which is awesome. And then what we're going to do, because we're exporting... And let's do we want to call this my theme context? Why not? Why not? We'll move forward with that. Let's go with the Gatsby browser with the wrap root. The wrap root is going to not import the theme provider from theme UI. It's going to import the import my theme context from source context, and then my theme context dot provider will be the thing over here. This theme doesn't need to be passed in, so we won't pass it in, but I do want to test to make sure that we can pass something in here. So again, check hello from A. That doesn't work anymore. That's interesting. So value equals, let's do like something silly here. Still doesn't work. Let's just stay on this page for a second. And let's do a theme here. So we can't do the provider unless we also ship the value, because the provider will override the value. That's what I'm getting from this. Because I believe if we didn't use these providers at all, that it would still work. Get rid of all of this and just return element, right? Because it still works if you don't use a provider. It doesn't work if you use a provider and you set an undefined value, but if you use a provider and you set a theme, it works. So for example, just to drive that point home, if we were looking at theme A as theme, which is deep, and we went into our wrap root, instead of using deep, what is it, Swiss is the other one? Or there's like a bunch of them, but we could do Swiss here, and that should change to, yeah, red. So that's pretty dope. Let's look at the other presets. What are the other presets? Swiss, light, dark. I guess there's a dark here too. So if we save this, we just see the theme update, which is pretty dope. And it doesn't affect the other one. So the other one in theme B is still Swiss, and theme A is still dark or whatever. And I'm super, super happy with that. So let's get rid of this. So actually in this case, I think what we could actually do that. We could actually take context, because if we remove this, since it doesn't work if you provide a provider anyway, we could force you to use the provider in the root. And if we force you to use the provider in the root, we could inject a variable here or something like that. Seems like there's a way to use the provider if you define it in a certain way. I mean, we can use the provider. That's not really the issue. The thing that I'm third and GitHub.com. I really need to remember to keep a chat box open. Gatsby starter Netlify CMS. Hey, look, it's Grant. Gatsby browser. Yeah. No worries. Cart provider from source context cart provider. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's so what you're saying is export the provider directly. Yeah, this has a lot more than we need, but for sure, I think I get what you're saying. Yeah, return cart provider dot or cart context dot provider value equals whatever. Yeah, for sure, we could do that. I'm just thinking about how I want this to be used, right? Because really what I would like this file to not really exist. Or at least not exist in the way that it currently exists. Because right now we have to import it as a relative file. So we're importing like /context, which I totally get and totally makes sense to me, because if we wanted to do anything special in this file at all, we just have the file here. And the actual like code and whatnot is easy to modify and change up and do whatever we want with. There's no special sauce that you need to know to deal with this. It's just React context and a function call that you're exporting. If we do something like export the provider, we could make a component that exports the provider, but then we're tying ourselves to having this theme here. And really, if I want to put it in the isolated theme UI package, we could export this, right? We would have to do something special to make sure that you were bootstrapping this correctly. Hey, Ben, how's it going? Which is a little bit more complicated anyway. So I'm just going to leave this file here for now because, you know, this isn't like a ridiculous amount of code, and it's not super hard to grok if you understand how context works. Or you can literally just copy and paste this from like whatever documentation page I'm going to put up. So I'm not too worried about it. It does mean that you need to do this. I don't think there's a way around needing to define this pragma in your files. So people may not like that from a developer experience standpoint, but you also have to import React anyway if you're doing this, and this is basically import React, right? Because you no longer have to import React, you have to import JSX from your context and then add a comment. So it's one extra line, not too worried about it. But I would like to remove it. I would like to make it easier. I would love if we had a Gatsby plugin that just wrote this part of the file for you. But I think to do that, there's a bug in the actual Babel, the thing that does the Babel transform for pragmas. It's in the React preset. 16,000 Corgi coins. Woof. I appreciate you not playing Sirens for the rest of the entire stream. Or I appreciate you not playing Sirens for the rest of my life. Yeah, so this is the Babel plugin that handles the JSX transformation to create element. And I think that this has some issues with being able to automatically inject this, because the way that it works is basically global. There's no way to target a subset of files to insert this on. And even if there was, I don't know how well that would work with shadowing. I think it would work with shadowing, actually, with the way I wrote it. But yeah, so what I'm saying is that basically getting this out of the file is going to be potentially very magical for the user. And I'm not sure that it's worth doing because of how magical it would be. Because what's happening here is very sort of on the simple side. It's some boilerplate, yes. And you have to do some boilerplate in your files, yes. But it's very obvious boilerplate, right? In the sense that, okay, import React from React, import a function from this place, import my theme from whatever theme file I have, export a context, export the bootstrapped pragma. I can explain that in a documentation page pretty easily. Whereas if this didn't exist and somebody looked at this file, they'd be like, oh, React's not imported. Okay, where's create element coming from? Right? Where is, like, there's no pointer to point people to the direction of where this thing is going to, or like why this thing is behaving in a certain way, or why this primary color is different from every other primary color. Yeah, so those are my thoughts on API design. Cool. So where are we on theme B? We need to do the same thing, right? We just did it. We have context in theme B. We are bootstrapping. do we have the wraproot stuff? The wraproot stuff is the stuff that I needed to do. Okay, so let's take this. Let's not make this dark because dark doesn't exist in this file. Let's take this, and it's just going to be a copy and paste here because it's the same code. And this theme actually, this provider is going to be a custom component anyway, I think. Especially once we start getting into the MDX stuff. We're going to need to make this provider provide not only this theme, but also the MDX components. So this will have to be a different object anyway. Boilerplate over magic all day. Yeah, for sure. I think especially when it's like the first release of the project, you don't want to go too magical with your APIs, because if you go too magical, people will hit a wall and then they won't know where to go and they won't understand it, and that'll be it, right? Oh, cool. Somebody, yeah, over there. Cool. Cool. So I think this all works still. That's Swiss. This is deep. What if I just highlight my messages for the rest of the stream? I really hope they fix the sunglasses on the corgi. That would make my life if they fixed that emoji adjustment reward. I just realized the music isn't on repeat, so I'm gonna hit repeat quick so that it just keeps playing and I don't have to worry about it. There's a chance of a purge tomorrow. There is. This is a thing that Twitch is doing. I think it's going stable on the 15th or something like that, or it's going into a different beta stage or whatever. So it's possible that you just lose everything. So you spend them if you got them, people. Okay. So let's get rid of this kind of stuff. Let's get rid of theme B, theme whatever. Let's keep the Gatsby browser. Let's keep the context file. I don't think we need to keep the bootstrap, or I don't think we need to keep this. Oh, actually, you know what? We're going to render some MDX here, so I think we will keep it. Open beta? Yeah, open beta would be a good step. Next step for them. Okay. So all of this works. We've got the nice little separation of files. Let's commit that. Oh wow, that's a lot of stuff. Packages. Let me put a get ignore here because I don't want .cache and I don't want public to show up. I always forget to put get ignores on my own projects because I have a global one that handles like node modules and stuff. Okay, so we've moved to the isolated theme UI package. If anybody wants to check that out, it's on GitHub. This is the repo name under my name on GitHub. Is that a grayscale corgi? Hangover corgi. Hey, I no longer get sirens for free all the time, Lacoste. I have moved. I am in my new apartment. We don't have to deal with that. Okay, so let's get rid of this isolated JSX file. Bonk. What is that? I don't know. Is that a crab or something? In packages, let's do another thing here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone the Gatsby plugins into this repo. So we're doing a multi workspace thing here. Packages. Come on, autocomplete. Come on. isolated JSX. Push that up. Okay, so first things first, we're gonna have to include Gatsby plugin MDX in both of these places. I think we have a. Do we have a file system source in any of these yet? I don't think we do. We're gonna get rid of isolated JSX here because that's not a thing anymore. We have to do it in the other package JSON too. I forgot about that. And then we don't have a Gatsby node, so we're not sourcing pages or anything. Trying to think here. A is a page in source pages. If this file was an MDX file, we could still have the H1 here. And then we would also want to use the style.whatever components for our MDX stuff. So I think when we do our MDX pragma, we have to replace it all at the same time, right? So the way that I'm thinking about implementing this is the MDX create element, this thing, is included at the top of every MDX file. If we go to code sandbox and create React sandbox, import MDX from, or import sync, I think, actually. Import syncs. What is syncs? Can't hit a C apparently. From at MDX, right? We need to install it. Thank you, code sandbox. So if we go down here and we do something like mdx.mix type annotation. Yes, that is not what I meant. mdx.sync. And then we stick some like markdown string in here, like header, and then some content. Of course, sync is not defined because I imported it differently. So if we do a sync compilation here, and we get rid of the centering that is here by default, and we stick it in a pre-tag because, yeah, why not? And then this is the result that we get. Move this. I can move this. I'll make this bigger. And you see that at the top it says JSX MDX. If you've never seen a compiled MDX file, it basically compiles to a React component. So what we're getting here is a default export that is a React component called MDX content. If you look at any page that's using MDX in a Gatsby site from source pages or source file system and whatnot, you'll see MDX content and you'll see MDX layout in there as well. MDX layout is a special wrapper where it's either going to be the string wrapper, which gets replaced inside of this pragma to be like a div or a section or something, I forget. Or it can be like a user supplied layout. And then that would be different. That would be not wrapper if it was a user supplied layout. And then there's like the MDX type on this as an additional prop, and then other things like this. There's some props that get passed in that you can use here too. And then, yeah, and then there's a shortcode support, which we're not using, so we don't need to go over. But basically, the thing that we care about is this JSX MDX. Shame you can't combine gray with the glasses. Yeah, the sunglasses are totally like off kilter, right? They're just like hanging off of the corgi's face. So basically what we need to do here is I don't want to go in and replace this JSX comment on every MDX file. That seems more tricky than it's worth. What I want to do is instead, I know that this MDX import is going to get injected because I think I wrote that code to do that. So this gets injected by, I don't know, Gatsby plugin MDX maybe? See if I can find it for y'all. It'll be in Gatsby. Where is this? Create Webpack config? No, it'll be in, not Create Webpack config. What's the other one? There's a Babel config somewhere in Gatsby node, maybe? Maybe the function actually gets injected by the compilation. I forget. You know, sometimes you write some code and then you're like, I think I know how this works. I remember that. I remember doing that. That's where I am right now. I wrote some code for this and I don't remember if MDX gets put in here. Because that's where the layout gets constructed, which is getting replaced by John actually, and with a much nicer implementation. I'm super happy about that. The MDX JSX, maybe in the index it gets added, if I remember. Yeah, there we go. So it just gets added here. And where's the function come from? I forget. So these turn into MDX calls. And then Gatsby plugin MDX has to inject that somehow. And I thought it was done in Gatsby node in onCreate Babel config. But it's not. So I wonder if it is in the processing. Let's go for utils gen MDX. So you can see that we're doing some replacements on the MDX content function. Import from React. There it is. This is the export that we need to replace. Because it gets injected automatically by Gatsby plugin MDX. So we could go in, look for this line of code, strip it out, and replace it with our import. But we would have to do that on every MDX file. And MDX files are processed in a way that doesn't send them through Webpack necessarily. So this import, I think this import gets stripped out and put into a scope file, and we would have to process the scope files, which there isn't really a lifecycle for, so it starts to get kind of complicated. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to define MDX.js React as a different import, so that it takes our file instead of whatever's file. And then inside of that, I think we're going to have to create a special directory for MDX stuff, because we can't do it as simply as we do it for the other implementation for theme UI. So the theme UI pragma is much, much simpler, right? We just have this context. We import the pragma. And then we set the context somewhere else, which is pretty much what I want to do here. I want to import the MDX pragma. I want to wrap it in a function and bootstrap it, but we have to bootstrap it with the right context, which is the harder part. Because we're going to use the same... So what we're doing here is we're bootstrapping a custom pragma into our theme. So each theme uses its own pragma. Whereas with MDX, with the approach that I want to take, it would be the same pragma for everybody. Hey Nielsen, how's it going? Hello, Krasnorechivi. Krasnorechivi. Good to see you. But yeah, so thinking about this, I think the replacement of the function in the MDX processing can't really be what we want, right? Because the files get pulled in by source file system, they get processed, the import gets injected into the output of the MDX file. The MDX file is no longer a file, it's a string in memory in the node. So once it's a string in memory, it basically becomes two pieces. There's a scope file and an MDX string, which is the body of the content. The scope file includes all of the imports, all of the header, all of the like imports and exports and stuff like that, which is where the MDX would go. And then what you get when you try to pass something into MDX renderer is the body content of the MDX file, and the scope gets passed in through context. So we get, I believe we get MDX through context is the way that that would work. Let's check MDX renderer. We might import MDX renderer directly. Or we might import MDX directly into MDX renderer. Yeah, we do. Oops. Right, so MDX gets imported here and passed into the scope here. So we may want to inject our custom pragma at this point in the MDX renderer. So maybe what we're going to end up doing here is if we render MDX in our theme, we use a custom MDX renderer. And what the custom MDX renderer does is replaces that. And then we can import ours and pass it in. Because in scope, MDX scope here, which is use MDX scope, we could pass in an MDX function here, and it would override the MDX function here. So I think we actually don't necessarily need to write a custom MDX renderer. I think we can write a wrapper for MDX renderer that uses our context. Or does that, not that uses our context, but uses our pragma. And then we can do our work in our pragma. So let's get some MDX set up. And when I forget what I just said, somebody from chat can remind me later. GA packages, we'll finish off. And now to push tables and stuff back wasn't too bad. What did you end up doing then? Also, I don't know what that emoji is that you used. RPG Faye. It looks like somebody you follow, maybe? Oh, there's what, Twitch RPG? I have RPGs too, but I don't have either of those. I have Twitch RPG and I have RPG Buka. I don't know what either of those are. But yeah, so we need a new package, I believe. or we can start modifying the old package, which is what I was going to do. So in here, we'll make dir Gatsby plugins, or what we'll do is git clone Gatsby plugins. And since I'm using Hub, this just cloned Christopher Viscardi / Gatsby plugins from my repo. So when we run yarn, we'll actually we need to point it at packages, don't we? So yeah, there's isolated theme UI in here in our package JSON. So we Gatsby plugins, packages, isolated theme UI. And we're doing a single package here, so we're just going to point directly to it. And that means I can go out to here and run yarn, and it should use the local version instead of the version from npm. The magic of workspaces. So if we look at Gatsby plugins, and we get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of that, maybe make this a little bigger. We have Gatsby plugins here, and we have in packages isolated theme UI, and isolated theme UI has the pragma. So this is the pragma we're using for JSX stuff. And then we need a new pragma for MDX. And I think we're going to export const MDX renderer. Equals what? Like props, and then returns MDX renderer. Returns the real MDX renderer. This is going to be .props. And what we're going to do here is import. Actually, we're not going to import. We're going to create it here. Const MDX pragma. Const MDX equals I don't know, some function that does something. We'll write it later. And then we're going to import MDX renderer from Gatsby plugin MDX. So now we have, this is our pragma. This is the MDX renderer that we're passing to. And this is our custom MDX renderer that we're going to use every time we want to render some content in our application. And here we're going to override what MDX is. It's unlikely that somebody also passes in MDX, so I'm going to make it a... I'm going to put it before the props instead of after the props spread. If I put it after the props spread, then nobody can override whatever this MDX is. If I put it before the props spread, then if somebody wants to in the future, if they have some really advanced use case I haven't thought of, they can now pass in their own MDX still. It'll be MDX. And in here, we're going to import MDX from that MDX.js/React. And we're going to rename this to MDX React Pragma. And then we're going to do MDX React Pragma .apply. And I forget what arguments get passed in. I think it's just going to be something like this. And this should allow us to use this as a pragma, which we are doing by replacing the scope in the MDX renderer, which I understand is totally confusing. So if you have questions, feel free to pop them in chat. Right, this, that. We need some MDX content still. We haven't done that yet. So what I'm going to do is yarn workspace add Gatsby source file system and Gatsby plugin MDX. And I'm going to add these to both themes just because just because we will need them in both. And the idea is that we have two completely separate themes that were not meant to be used together, which means that they would both have both of these packages in their dependencies. Which is totally cool, because if we don't use options, then... Thank you, Ben. Thank you. If we don't use options, they'll get combined into a single Gatsby plugin instance. Abort. 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 He didn't find the chocolate pudding yet, though. Hey, Swiss, how's it going? What are you up to today? Okay. So we have that stuff now. We need to put it in Gatsby config for each of our themes. Which I guess technically up until now our themes aren't really actually themes because they're not really doing anything with Gatsby config, but now they will be. I now have a habit of using the backticks for all of my strings because of my work on Gatsby. I don't know how I feel about that. A lot of time I want to write variant equals whatever, but I have to use SX equals variant whatever. Is there a way to create a shortcut to do that? Yes, there is a way that you could change the behavior of that. You might not like it. It's tough, right? Because SX needs to accept not only that variant, but also potentially styles. So that's why the key is there. The core team has taught you the way of the backticks. It's more like ESLint yelled at me until I wrote backticks everywhere. And now I just write backticks everywhere. Just got done biking and eating. That's dope. I got done working out about an hour and a half ago before I got on stream. Yes, you could do that, Swiss. You could even do that with what we have been doing on stream. With write your custom pragma and then pass it to the actual theme UI pragma. But I don't know. It seems a little bit overcomplicated to get that functionality. Like, you can definitely do that because if you do what we're about to do here for MDX, which is basically take the original pragma, wrap it in your own pragma, and then pass through. And right here, you could do whatever you want to make that happen, and then use your own pragma instead of the other pragma. Yeah, you find yourself using it a lot for like atomic elements, like the small shit, like textiles, buttons, base level things. Yeah, I get that. If you try to do that and you want some pointers into how to do that, you can pop into Discord and I will help you do that. I don't know that I would suggest doing it, but I'm happy to help you get to the point where you have a working implementation for sure. And I can definitely do that. Yeah, Ben, are you pro backtick at this point? Your backticks are faster than single or double quotes. I will let you think whatever you want on that, of course, Grant. Oh man, I forgot what I was gonna do here. For file system source. I always forget the file system source options. file system. It's always path. And then I don't know that this dir name will work in a theme. We're not going to use pages. We're going to use source content. So we're going to have to create an MDX file in source content. Actually, do we really want source content? Let's just make it content. And if we just make it content, then I think if we run as a theme, we don't need anything here. The really cool part about using this path style with themes is that if you run the theme on their own and you don't pass in options, because if you can't run the theme on its own if you pass options. But if you write the path like this, it'll look in the local directory instead of looking in like the site root. So if you run it as a theme, it'll look in the theme area. And if you run it as a site, it'll look in the site, which is kind of a cool duality. A cool duality that I would not suggest anybody really take advantage of. But cool. So content, we need a content folder. Test from a.mdx. And here we'll get like a title, some MDX, and then we'll have a body. My theme, a MDX stuff. Some content. Some code. Cool. Now we will have some MDX. We are going to need to write a Gatsby node to render this file to something. Who has dogs? Dogs are the best. Dogs are fantastic. It's stream relevant. Is it just dogs? I don't think I can pull that. Like, I have to. So many. Is that a recent status, or am I just gonna like? Thank you for the follow, Emerson. Appreciate that. Oh, it's a doggo. Yes, puppies. I already got it. I usually think about asking people to like drop it in Discord, but I can type it faster than any of you can drop it in Discord if I ask you because of the stream delay. So, doggos. I love dogs. Dogs are fantastic. You're right. That was very stream relevant. I appreciate that. I appreciate the link. Cool. So we have to do a Gatsby node. The Gatsby node create pages stuff still hasn't been simplified, so I'm going to go grab that. Do we all need to also make URL? Well, I did do the live stream for URL shorteners, Ben. If you want to go use my live stream to create a URL shortener. You know, hint, hint. Hilariously, I haven't actually been using my URL shortener since I created it. I need to get into the habit of using it. I am not yet in the habit of using the URL shortener. So this is a bunch of create pages stuff. We're going to need a template as well. This will be all MDX, which isn't going to work actually. I don't like that they put the limit there. I forget if source instance name gets put on the MDX stuff, but we'll just do all MDX for now. Front matter slug. We'll add a slug here just to make that easy. Slug. Test from A. Done. I don't know why I wrapped some MDX in quotes. That's not how YAML works. I guess I'll leave the comments here because that makes sense. Hey, Adrian. Appreciate the bits, man. Theme A template, source templates, MDX template.js, because we're gonna have to copy and paste this into B anyway. So we'll just sort of rename this. Actually, we can actually copy and paste this entire logic. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. Theme template, theme template, theme template, slug, context. Context is edge.node.id. Let's see, edges node ID. Why does the create pages example on Gatsby's site not include the ID of the markdown? That seems like a bug. Oh well. Not my problem. Okay, and now we need our template and source templates, MDX template. Things are going well. Things are going well. We're doing a bit of React context isolation work so that two Gatsby themes don't conflict. And we're doing it. We just did it for... We wrote a custom React pragma to do it for the theme UI design tokens. And now we're doing it for MDX components. So things are pretty good. Things are pretty good. Is that little one? Oh, that's the bit leader badge. Nice. Yeah, okay, so we're in Gatsby theme A. We need a templates, source templates. So source templates, MDX template.js. This will import GraphQL from Gatsby. We'll export const query from equals GraphQL query theme a query. This takes an ID. I think it's what $ID. I forget what the syntax is here, so I'm going to look it up. It's kind of funny to forget like the syntax for things that I've written a million times, right? They're just things I don't think about anymore. Let's get the source templates, post query template. Let's see, Chris. Why would you say that why would you say that adding just a variant prop is not something I should do? I didn't say that just adding a variant prop isn't something you should do. I think that writing a custom pragma to get that syntax means that you're breaking your API compared to what everybody else thinks is the API if you work with other people on the project. So I think that can be a bad idea. And I think that it's a good learning opportunity for you, for sure. Like to learn how pragmas work and how you can override things. I just don't know that I would do it in a team environment because I think that the extra couple characters you save are not worth the level of confusion that people would get from, like, if they're used to using theme UI or something like that, or because it's not going to be documented anywhere, right? They're going to look at it. They're going to say, hey, this is using theme UI. It's using the SX prop. I need to go look up whatever code is here. I've never seen this before. They're going to go to the theme UI docs. Theme UI docs are not small. They're not going to be able to find it, etc. We're gonna nyan out while I get this query working. We also need to export default here. Props to a component, and the component will use our MDX renderer. So it'll be like h1. We'll do data queue. I need to disable that pop-up. That pop-up messes me up so much. Data.mdx dot title, front matter.title will be the result of our query, and then we'll do mdx renderer data.mdx.body, and this mdx renderer will be our mdx renderer. So we're going to import mdx renderer, which I think is a named export from where are we? We are in templates. We're gonna have to go up a level from context. Is it in context? I wrote this in theme UI, didn't I? Should I be writing this in the isolated theme UI? Yeah, for sure, Ben. We'll pop into Discord after the stream and take a look at it. Oh, also, yeah. That meetup thing is... I have to believe that they saw that meetup usage was declining, and their decision to do that was based on the fact that they think that the people who are running meetups are companies and that they can pay, and they don't care if like community meetups go extinct. I have to believe that that's the conclusion they came to. Okay, so this is custom MDX renderer. This is pointing to our pragma. Our pragma has to take the React context, so we have to bootstrap it, which is fine. So we'll do this, which is all good. And then we do this, we get out of here, we get out of this, we go into the template. The MDX renderer comes from isolated theme UI / MDX pragma. So we're using the MDX renderer from the package. We haven't written our query yet, which is okay. I'll write that in a sec. Right. This needs to be data. The pragma will get bootstrapped with the context that we want it to get bootstrapped with. So that'll be interesting. I think we have to actually do that. I think we're going to have to move this to our own, and then this might be just in our app. I don't know that we're going to actually need to import this. So let's put this in our app to start with, and then we'll move it out into the more abstract package later. And we'll just do this in this file for now. So we're going to do it. We're going to make it one-off kind of thing. Aggressively hits honk button. Free Code Camp is going to build an open source one. That's interesting. The API for Meetup was free and open, and now you need a paid account, which is $30 per group per month. That is... Wow. They're just trying to kill their platform, aren't they? I wonder if they sold it and somebody's just trying to squeeze it. And they just basically, like they didn't announce that or something. Loves working on one project and 2 IDEs. WeWork owns it. When did WeWork buy Meetup? Wow. Well, really? WeWork is that sucks. That's really awful. Okay, we're gonna put this in here. This is gonna be our pragma that we're gonna use. We will bootstrap it with our own context. I'm going to say that we are going to do something here, but I don't know what yet. Yeah, that's a really bad situation, dude. I don't know what they're doing with that. So I'm juggling a couple things here in my head. I'm juggling the fact that the MDX renderer needs to use this pragma. I moved it into this file, which is not where it's going to live long term. It's just somewhere I can work with it. The MDX pragma that we're trying to custom write is sitting up here. We are going to bootstrap this with the context and then pass it in here. So this is going to be something like MDX context, right? My theme context, I think it is, right? And my theme context is going to have to... Oh, it auto-imported? Oh, that's so dope. That's never happened to me before. Cool. But it's unfortunately the wrong import. So it auto-imported, but it didn't auto-import from the right place. And now I can't get the autocomplete to happen. Okay, whatever. // brings us out into there, and then we just do context. // context. Sure, themes cause issues with that because of shadowing. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could see that. That's interesting. That's super interesting, actually. I haven't done any thinking about how to solve that problem. I bet you need to write a custom like helper implementation for that, to basically use the stream or use the shadowing algorithm inside of the autocomplete algorithm. That's interesting. Okay, so this is going to be context. The context for the pragma is going to be something more like this now. Right? It's going to be theme and components, and that means that inside of our isolated JSX pragma, we're going to need to change this, which is going to break both themes. So we're going to have to make the change in both themes. The pragma here is going to have to do this. And that's fine. That works, but we're going to have to make this change in Gatsby theme B as well, because now that we've done this, we need to pass in an object and not something else. And I think that works out for us. But the provider is also going to have to change to the wrap root. I also love that Taos manages the Discord while I'm streaming. Oh, it's fantastic. Thank you, Taos. This is going to be an object of theme. The other one in theme A is also going to be an object of theme. And then I think that gets us basically everything we need. The context here is going to be like a use context, my theme context, or it's going to be context here, right? I think use context. And there's going to be components. And then I'm going to steal actually the code from the other pragma. trying to finish programming at the same time. Well, I'm streaming and programming at the same time, so obviously. Where's the pragma? Where's the pragma? There we go. There's the pragma. So the thing that happens here is this. And this is what we're going to have to return from our other pragma. MDX react pragma.apply. There's no context, so we're applying to no context. It doesn't matter. This says parse props. So I guess this is just the props, and then the children get passed in last. Chris needs to do streams that don't need so much damn thinking so I can concentrate on work and still have fun. Well, I'm off for the rest of the week on streams, so we can do a lighthearted stream on next week. If you can come up with an idea, I'm happy to do a lighthearted stream next week. This is how Meetup expects you to save your data if you want to. Close it. Copy and paste written content into Google Drive. Or download files and save it to your computer. There's no export button. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I'm going to Jamstack Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We do need a Corgi race stream. That might not be a light stream, though. That may turn into a very intense stream. Let's see. Props theme. The props for this. Let's drag this all the way over here. No, let's not drag it. Let's just scroll. And then the props. So this comes in as type props children. Which is this. Because... So right now, we don't really care about the props. We're just going to pass them through. I think the only thing that we need is for this to have a components on it that we control. So we're going to put it there. And I think that'll do it for us. I'm realizing I've wrote all this code without showing anything on screen, so I'm going to write this query now and do the actual query and stuff so people can see something. Because I'm basically just coding in my head right now. Let's see, front matter, title, and then what, ID, and then body, I think, is everything that we had. This is going to... We'll just do that so that it doesn't reprocess every time we render. But it's probably less relevant to what Talos needs to focus on. I have a client meeting and won't be coming, but say hi to all the Netlify peeps for me. Yeah, for sure. We'll do. I assume they're all going to be there since this, their conference and everything. Okay, so we have a lot of new files and we have a lot of stuff. Let's see if the site runs. Assuming that I wrote any of this code correctly. Cannot find MDX.js MDX. I think we need React as well. So I'm just going to add this to... Oh, no. There we go. Gotta add it to A and B. Those poor SREs, they're on call during the conf who can't actually show up. Well, hopefully... hopefully, they are not... they don't have a horrible on-call. I would hope. I don't know how their on-call is. I know that... I think Intercom just talked a little bit about their on-call. and it seemed pretty dope. If I can find it here. I think it was Intercom. Yes, it was Intercom. I'll drop this link in chat, but I highly suggest reading this because the on-call culture at Intercom seems absolutely fantastic. It's this. So they went 3 weeks without any out-of-hours pages over the last 3 weeks. Absolutely fantastic. That's so cool. Monthly count of out-of-hours on-call engagements. Less than 20 a month. I mean, that's pretty dope. So yeah, I highly suggest take a read, see how that works for you. Yeah, that's what I think of when you say those poor SRE. I would hope that Netlify has just as good of a culture for on-call. Okay, let's run this again. My Gatsby source file system trick did not work. Where's the context? Or not the context, content. Oh, you know why it didn't work? Because it's being used as a theme. That's why. Because I'm being silly. Const path equals require path. Oh yeah, I know it was mostly a joke. It's just it hits a spot for me, you know. Limit is never used in operation load pages query. What did I do in the Gatsby node? In the Gatsby node, yes, limit is not used because I don't care. We're gonna get them all the pages, all one of the pages. I missed something here. There we go. What was that? Components is not defined? Did I misspell components? Wouldn't be the first time. Here we go. Components. Seems fine there. Which file is this in? Context. Right. We'll default to zero components, basically. Yeah, I mean, it bugs me when people are like, well, I won't get into this, but can't repeat edges of undefined through. Did I query the wrong thing? Check out GraphQL. It probably isn't picking up any files. Picks up a file. Okay. Let's check Gatsby node. Let's get into this. You shouldn't be afraid to deploy, Eco. That's my statement. You shouldn't be afraid to deploy, and if you are, you have bigger problems and you need to fix them. So if you're not deploying, for example, on Friday, you should be focusing that time on making it so that you can deploy. You've heard me on stream. I have heard you on stream. Yes, that is correct. All MDX, edges node ID. Oh, right, because I didn't change the name of this variable. So it's the little things that trip you up, you know? Gatsby Theme A created a page with a component that doesn't exist. That's exciting. Theme template, source templates, oh, it's path.resolve. GP, get push. Cannot find module source templates, MDX template because I need to do the / now because it's require.resolve. $2 prod force. What are you doing, FTP? React must be in scope when using JSX. You annoying little ESLint rule. Might as well use ours. I think that's how we used it, right? Whatever. Let's give it a try. Export MDX React pragma is not found in React. Yes, because it's not a pragma, or it's not a actual export. It is MDX, which I'm renaming. I'm gonna do as, isn't I? There we go. I'm just like just fixing all of my like typos. One of the worst things about is that you can only deploy on Tuesday, Thursday after 5 with 2 weeks advance notice. Woof. Woof. That is tough. That's not fun. Not fun at all. So it looks like it worked. Is this test from A slug? Yes. So let's do this test from A. Yay, some MDX stuff. So you'll notice that none of this is actually using the theme right now, which is super interesting, right? Right. So the other thing that we might have to do is look into the styled components, because theme UI includes a bunch of styled components. Styled.js. So styled.js does all of this kind of stuff. And it manually imports the theme context instead of using the context from somewhere else. So I'm going to just copy this and we're going to deal with it later. In here, let's say, let's just throw it in our site for now, and I'll clean it up into the package later. We're going to dump it all in here, and then we're just going to do a little bait and switch. And this is going to be that instead, I think. Yes, I believe that that's it. This imports JSX from ./JSX, which I think is the pragma. It is the pragma. Maybe we don't even need to use it. It looks like there's some special processing here for passing functions into the styled call. So I'll have to go back and probably rewrite this. Not a huge fan of using these components anyway. I think they should all be using the SX prop instead of being like this kind of constructed thing. But we do end up using... So we do end up using the pragma, right? So we could import our pragma here. Did we call this pragma? I'm trying to make the body of the code look as similar to the original as possible so that later when I go back and I actually try to clean this up, it's a little easier to figure out what I did. So I have a million files open now. Okay, so we have styled. So the thing here is that styled is this function that returns a call to JSX with the component and some CSS styles. For the arguments, because styled takes what, a tag and a function call or an optional function call, I think. I guess this version only takes a function call. It's blocking a bunch of props from forwarding, which is okay. The args here are potential styles, and they each need to get the theme object. So I think what we're doing here is correct. I think we can clean this up for our use case a little bit, but I'll leave it like that for now, and I'll see if it works. And the MDX template is going to import styled. So we get styled there. And I think we can just do components as styled here. And there is no guarantee that our site still runs. And like oodles of paperwork. Yeah, 2 weeks is so, man. With release notes and backout plans and all this other stuff. So it can be approved by committee. Yes, that is pretty bad. So MDX create element here, MDX type. So when we go over to our code and we take styled, I was passing in styled here in the template, which I think requires a restart of the Gatsby process. But the MDX pragma uses our styled components. No, we want to pass these into our context. Ideally, we want to pass these into our context. So when we go to create our context, this is going to be the default. Components is going to be styled, and we're going to import styled from context, content, context, What file are we in? Gatsby theme A. I hate that it doesn't actually show you the real name. Source context. We're in context. So we should do /styled. Yes. And I believe that styled, we'll log this out, will be an object. And we can pass this out here. It doesn't need to be there. This still doesn't do anything, but it does log out what we need, right? Pragma was not found in context. That's interesting. Where's our pragma coming from? JSX. It's JSX there. Yep, we're doing JSX there. Here we are doing pragma, so we'll do JSX. Okay, so styled tag is a function. That's not really what we want here. Let's go take a look at the way that styled is used in the theme UI code. Wrong file. Let's go index. Styled components and /components. So components bootstraps all the styled stuff. Imports a custom thing called themed. So components is really what we want. Man, I really don't want to have to rewrite all of this stuff. It's just a couple small changes. Like the special functions like get are really weird. May just need a channel in the Discord for cute puppers. Is that what's happening over there right now? We could have a puppy channel. We gotta fill it if we're gonna have a puppy channel though. Could write a bot to post puppy photos. That would not be a bad idea actually. Go scan a bunch of Twitter accounts, get the photos from the puppy accounts, and then paste them. Something like that, or from Instagram maybe, or something like that. So get is a special function from styled system CSS. CSS is a special function from styled system CSS that's used in the pragma. Themed is reusing those, even though we're already using those in our pragma. Components is the file we really want. Styled div is a themed div. For each key, styled version of components, themed key. Themed probably returns a function, right? Themed takes a key and takes some props, takes the theme off the props, and gets the styles dot whatever prop for the theme it's concerned with. This may be harder than I thought it was going to be, and I may back out and do something different. Been having these conversations. There's something about you more than So basically what's happening in the style or the theme UI pragma is that this CSS prop comes from emotion, and this CSS function comes from styled system CSS. And if you don't use the pragma, this is how you write it. I think we want to just use my custom component for now, though. I think that using the styled stuff can wait for another day. And here, that's Gatsby theme B. We need Gatsby theme A. Gatsby theme A will ignore styled for now, and we'll say that the components are like H1, which is an H1 with a prop spread on it, and an SX prop where the color is primary, right? And that, I think, will prove this MDX out, at least. And make sure that we don't get lost in a rabbit hole of other stuff today. And then we can go back and do the styled components another stream. Okay, so that tells us that this is not actually... Are those actually H1s? Yes, they are H1s. The components here... Give me the H1. Where's the H1? H1. This is an H1, right? This is the create element, forward ref, H1, original type H1. Okay, so we need to take a look at what is happening and why our H1 is not getting pulled in, or why the theme is not getting applied to it. Oh, you know why the theme isn't getting applied to it? So I didn't import the theme. JSX from context. Where are we? We're in context. We already have JSX. Whoops. Whoops. Okay, so what we're going to do over here is add a couple of console logs. We're going to clop it up, because that's what everybody is into these days. We're going to get rid of Gatsby theme B for a second, because it's just sort of cluttering everything. The MDX template, what I want to do here is log out components and make sure that what we're getting here is the actual H1. And then this is going to get passed to the MDX React pragma, which is the pragma from MDX.js React. So the only other log that we can do is inside of node modules. Where is components? Is components being used here? No, it's not. Let's do this. Let's say console.log template to make sure that this div is getting rendered. And then MDX is a create element. MDX pragma is what we're supposed to be passing in here. MDX renderer might not be applying MDX pragma, so that'll be interesting. We'll have to check that too. So if this doesn't work, we're going to dive into the MDX renderer next, I think, and add some logs. Where's the MDX renderer? It is in node modules. Let's close out basically all of these files. We don't need really anything other than the template open right now, just to make it a little bit less confusing, because we're going to dive into node modules, and that's going to open us up a little bit. And this is going to be at MDX JS MDX React dist index, and this is going to be what, MDX renderer is in Gatsby plugin MDX. Duh, I wrote that package. Why would I not remember that? Where's MDX renderer? Oh no, I didn't scroll down. That's why. MDX renderer. So we're gonna console.log MDX renderer, and we're going to log out components here. And I think what we're going to do is log out components here. This will be MDX components, right? And we'll label this 2 just in case we get multiple. And then the other thing that I want actually is the scope. Because if we get the scope and the scope is not using the MDX, let's just put these next to each other. Like happy little logs. I'm gonna be Bob Ross from now on. Because MDX scope gets passed in, so if MDX doesn't get to MDX scope, then it doesn't get here. So MDX renderer 2 gets no components, it looks like. MDX scope gets React. So the scope is undefined, and the other thing, the props are made up and the components don't matter, basically, to the MDX renderer right now. So whose line, but for React. Let's see, the MDX template. So we're using MDX renderer. We're passing in MDX as a prop to MDX renderer. MDX renderer is coming from Gatsby plugin MDX. That means it's this file. This file gets run. And it needs to get passed in as scope, actually. So it's going to be scope equals MDX pragma. And this is going to be an object. So this is an not often used feature of MDX renderer. Nobody really uses it anymore. It's not really meant to be used. Okay, so we've got MDX happening now. Components is still undefined. But you can pass in scope, and scope used to be used for like shortcodes and things like that, and replacing like React components with an actual implementation. But scope isn't necessary anymore. So we're going to just use it for this now. So we do get to here, we get to components. Components is use context. Context is coming from my theme context. My theme context apparently does not have components in it. Right? So my theme context does not have components in it. Which I think is demonstrably false, right? Because components is right here. So we have this H1 right here. And yeah, so components. I'm just making sure that I spelled that right. Sometimes, you know, you just misspell things. So MDX, so components coming into the MDX renderer should be undefined, right? And then use MDX components with components should return the components that use the regular context. And the pragma that we're using to render stuff gets passed in as scope into the body, and the body of the MDX calls the function that we pass in. The function that we pass in is this MDX over here. So this is the function we're passing into that renders the MDX body. Or not that renders the MDX body, but gets called by the MDX body to get rendered. Because it's React.create element basically inside of the MDX body. And then components is undefined because it comes in off props. Is that the problem here? Let's do props here. See what props comes out as. And then we'll do H1 as well, or type, which will be H1. I'm so happy that scope is no longer the standard for shortcodes. The provider is a much better API. Yes, it 100% is. I'm super happy we made that change. So components is empty, components is empty. It's null and undefined for H1. So this is null, and this is undefined. Interesting. So use context isn't getting our context. Is that what's happening here? I'm gonna take a short detour into trying to log out the entire. Yes, so there is no components in our context. What is going on there? Did I put components in the right file, right? This looks like it's properly exported. Did I not save that? Is that what just happened? Oh my. Is that what just happened? No, we're still getting a theme that does not have components in it. So let's do test key true. Let's see what happens. We are still not seeing that. So that's super interesting. Because it means that this context is not getting passed in. Oh, you know what the problem is? We're overriding it. So let me take this. And yeah, so I think that the option that Grant said earlier, where we bootstrap a provider and we send it out, is the better option here. Because then we can control it a little bit more. But let's go into the wrap root. And this needs to be components, right? Because we set the theme here. If we didn't set the theme here, we wouldn't need to set components here. Or maybe that is better. It's just a little surprising. We'll get the JSX happening over here. We'll do this. We'll get JSX. We'll get import my theme context JSX from context. And then that happens, that happens. And that should be better. That's good. Hooks can only be called in the body of a function. That is exactly what we want to see. Well, it's not what we want to see, but the thing is that use context can only be called in certain places, and this is not one of them. So what I'm going to do is set components to an empty object for a second so we get this page to render and confirm that that is actually the problem. It is not. Where is the actual problem? Which hook do you think we... You might be breaking the rules of hooks. I like how the options are, you might be breaking the rules of hooks, capital R, or you might have two different versions of React. It's in wrap root, which is interesting. So wrap root, and maybe because it's trying to do the theme provider, let's do this instead. Instead of using JSX here, let's use React. I lived on this screen for about 2 weeks fixing Netlify CMS app. Yes, that is rough. That is a rough outcome. But you got it working, so that's good. See, so now we get an H1. The H1 isn't necessarily using our stuff, right? Because if we go to context, we go to Gatsby browser and we say color pink, it should work, but primary is not working, right? Oh no, the actual component is not getting applied. That's interesting. It was rough and it does work. And yeah, I mean, be happy about that. That's sort of always the thing that makes me the most happy about engineering and programming and stuff like that. It's the ones where I like get stuck on it for a while and then suddenly I have this breakthrough and it's this great moment. And it just, I don't know, it feels fantastic. Props components. So components. So now we're going into the MDX React pragma. So let's go check out MDX and make sure that our component is actually getting in and getting used. What do you think? Where do you think this is in this file? MDX provider, MDX create element, MDX create element. That's it, right here. We found it. I'm writing previews with hooks right this minute, and that would not have been possible. Nice. That's dope. Spelling check for a post and publish a preview deploy. Dinner is in like 10 minutes. Yeah, throw the link in Discord for sure. Excited to see another one from you, man. For sure. Fish up, fish up. Where is our... What is the thing we need to log here? So components does a use MDX components on prop components. So let's do console.log MDX content prop components. And then we'll do the same thing, but we'll do it down here on the next one. As prettier destroys everything about the formatting of that file. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's running. Yo, Max, how's it going? Thanks for stopping by. Good to see you. We're in MDX create element, right? Yes, here's MDX create element. Components is use MDX components. MDX content is here. So that should be being used. Let's just do a sanity check here. Type. It's not. I'm gonna restart Gatsby, which I feel like I do all the time. Taking a break from a Redux project. What a headache. Yeah, I mean, what's your experience level with Redux? Okay, so we're getting through here. We are not getting into the MDX content, which is interesting. It should be this. That's doing that. I don't think we're even running that function. Did I go into the wrong file and make a change? Yes, I did. Always make sure. This is actually something somebody on stream just did. I think it might have been Swiss. But yeah, using the .es file instead of the .js file. Prop components. Components. Plop. So we do see the H1 come through. Beginner, lower intermediate, mostly because I avoid it in favor of something like context. Yeah, for sure. Is .e.js a file that you don't want transpiled? No, it is a file that is supposed to be compiled. It's ES module syntax file. So if you look in the package.json for this package, you see dist index.js in main, and you see module dist index.es.js. And what this is saying is that this file uses ES 2015 module syntax, whereas this one uses the CommonJS fully compiled version. So this will actually get compiled. And this is sort of like it's kind of like an unspoken standard. Like Webpack knows it, and a couple other bundlers know it. But it's not like anything really super official. It's just like in practice, this works. And in practice, this is what we do, kind of thing. So blah, 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 blah. So actually, did I even check to see if this is... Okay. So this H1 is still not... There we go. Object and object. There's our problem. Why are those objects? What do you think, people? Why are those objects? Let's log out props. Props has children, has components, has MDX type, has original type. Let's go look at the H1. Props.props is null. I wonder if it's supposed to be... Oh, you know what I did? When I wrote the MDX pragma that we used for the template, I passed in props like this, but this is supposed to be a ... Okay, so that's a step in the right direction. Now we have the props here. And if we look at this, what are we getting? Still getting the same thing. Let me reboot the server. Just not a new keyboard, huh? What keyboard? Did you go mechanical? Or did you go like custom? I assume since you're quote unquote humble bragging on this one, that it is a nice keyboard. Object is not what I want. So let's get rid of this one so I don't accidentally type into that one. And then why do we use MDX components here if we pass in, I guess we pass in prop components to just pass it through. Component is that, prop components, component, object assign, empty object, ref, etc. Let's check etc. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I don't think I used the pragma to do this. So this is supposed to be an object because we're not transpiling it, right? So I think the problem here was that the provider can't be compiled like this, right? So that's the problem there. And then to get around that, we can actually do this instead. This normally wouldn't happen because we'd be in a different file, right? So there we go. That's the thing we need. And then this is just a normal object. Great. And then I think SX will work, but I don't think that'll pass in any of the... There we go. Everything works now. Oh, great. That's wonderful. That's exactly what we wanted to see. Now we have isolated MDX components with SX. Woof. Did somebody say Redux? Yes. Somebody said Redux. I believe Max said Redux. So yeah. That is the way to get this. So we did a lot here. This is a lot more code than the other one was. So we've got a theme context, exporting a JSX function that we're using. We set the value in our theme provider in the wrap root. We added the components field to our context. We turn this into an object. So for example, in theme B, we have an object over here. And then we have new files. So this isn't going to work for the rest of the files. And then the new files are, we have an MDX file. We have the Gatsby config that has the source file system and the Gatsby plugin MDX to set up the actual rendering. We have the Gatsby node that creates the new pages for the MDX files. And we have the template, which renders the MDX file. So the important thing here is that we have a custom pragma that we're passing in to the MDX renderer, which we can do whenever we want. So we can move this into the same spot as JSX and export it. And we'll be able to import JSX MDX here. And then that's really it. We are really just passing in our custom pragma into the MDX renderer, and that works. And it does the same thing that the JSX tokens pragma does. So let's save this. Packages, Gatsby theme A. I don't want style because styled isn't something we're working with right now. So let me delete styled. Isolated MDX. And then let's do a real quick copy paste over to Gatsby theme B so that we can prove that this does actually work. Oh, you know what we didn't do though? We didn't set this to primary, which is probably more interesting than... and actually I don't know if this is going to work because we didn't try it. But it uses the custom pragma. And the custom pragma is used to render the... There we go. That's that. So it works. And then we go to theme B, and theme B is still Swiss. So theme A, theme B. Theme A, test from A does this. And then we'll do, what, test from B or something? So actually, you know what we can do? I bet you we could just clone this page, actually. That'd be funny. See you, Eco. Thanks for stopping by. I'm about to finish up here because we just got done everything that I wanted to do. I haven't quite proved that it works yet, but because we just did the other one, it basically does work for sure. So let's see. Do I have... There's templates, there's context. Context changed a little, but the wrap root is what changed more. This and this can go, but we'll have to change this to only focus on our own source. So yeah, I think that I'm just going to leave this for now. I'll finish this up off stream. If you're interested in seeing how this works out, join the Discord. I'll paste the link in the Discord when I finish this up. I'm super happy with the fact that this works, right? Because what we've done here is implemented a custom pragma to pass in our custom elements and use those. So yeah, super happy with that. And those components don't override each other, right? So if you pass in a component that didn't, for example, use the SX prop, it would still be isolated, which is pretty dope. So what we can actually do to prove that is, I don't have the file open, so I'm not going to do it. Actually, I do have the file open. So we would do this, then we can do like H1, and then from A, and we'll do like, I don't know, props.children. I'll do span here, because they're probably going to fit in a span. So that should... my team A MDX stuff, and this, what? From A. And we will run this. Okay, so it didn't actually change anything, which is interesting. I wonder if it's overriding with props.children on the element. So that component is what? In context? That's why it's not working. Where is the wrapper? Right. So this, and then here we'll do. Wait, that's the right thing, right? Yeah. And then we'll do. I don't know, plus props.children. You think that'll even work? There we go. Hi from theme A stuff. And then when I switch this over to do the same thing in theme B, this will not happen. So cool. I'm gonna end the stream there. It's been a while. It's a long stream today. So yeah, thanks for hanging out, everyone. And that's gonna be it for today. We definitely got it working. I'll post it in Discord when I have a better example of it working. But yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out.